Okay, so we're looking at the second part of nomenclature. So a lot of this will be repetitive from grade 10, but some of it, of course, is new. So hydrates is a new type of structure that you haven't yet seen. So a hydrate is essentially an ionic compound that has water molecules within its structure. Okay, so the way that a hydrate is written is different from other molecules, and you can see an example right here. So copper sulfate, and actually this is copper 2 sulfate, and then you see a dot, and then it has 5 waters attached. So all hydrates are the same. You have the name of the ionic compound, a dot, a certain number, and then water. Okay, so when the hydrate is heated, what happens is the water molecules basically will evaporate. So what you'll be left with behind is the ionic compound. So when that water is gone, you have to imagine you just have the ionic compound from what you originally would have had before. So sometimes those are referred to as anhydrous, so meaning without water, right? So if we had anhydrous version of copper 2 sulfate pentahydrate, which I'll tell you how to name that in a second, it would just be copper 2 sulfate, right? So when you're looking at the names of hydrates, what you would do is you name the ionic compound first, okay, like normal. So it's almost like, imagine it's just the ionic compound, give it its name. Then we have the word hydrate. So hydrate means the water portion. Now we have to also add in a prefix, a Greek prefix, that will say essentially how many waters are part of that structure. So we have mono is 1, right? Di is 2, tri is 3, tetra is 4, penta is 5, which is why over here this is called pentahydrate because there's a 5 in front of the water. Then we have hexa, which is 6, hepta, which is 7, octa, which is 8, nona, which is 9, and then deca, which is 10. Okay, so here, remember, you're naming the ionic compound like normal. Then you use your Greek prefix with hydrate to say how many waters are in that structure. So here we have copper, and you still use your regular rules for ionic compounds. So copper 1 chloride, right? And then here I have 2 waters. So this is going to be, let me make some room here. This is going to be dihydrate because there's 2 waters part of this structure. Try naming the next 2. Pause the video. Okay, so for the next ones, we have magnesium nitrate, and then we have 4, so this is going to be tetrahydrate. Okay, and this guy here, we have the last one, sodium carbonate. And then we have 6 water, so that's going to be hexahydrate. So the same rules apply. You can still have variants to your polyatomic ions. So I could have had sodium hypocarbonate hexahydrate. The rules that we've learned with ionic compounds still apply here. The only part that's new really is the hexahydrate or the hydrate portion. Now, when you are doing the chemical formulas, you still use the crisscross rule for the ionic compound part. you put a product dot. It's not multiplication, but really that's what we use to separate. And like I said, you put the number of water that you have here. So you're still going to use the crisscross rule for the ionic portion. So here we have, I'll do the first one with you and then I'll have you try the other ones. So we have sodium carbonate, which means one less oxygen. So it's CO2. But this has a -2 charge, which will crisscross down to the sodium. So Na2CO2 dot. Trihydrate is 3 waters. Okay, give the next 2 a try. Okay, so here, calcium phosphate. So we have Ca3PO4 with a 2, crisscross down, dot. And monohydrate, you don't have to write the number 1. By writing H2O, it automatically means 1. Copper 1 sulfate, I'll write it down here. So copper 1 sulfate, oops, we do not need the bracket there. Right, so the 2 from sulfate charge comes down because this is copper 1, we don't need a bracket. And then there are 6 waters here. So now let's review molecular compounds. So this is where you're dealing with compounds that are made up of non-metals only. So we're kind of moving away from ionic compounds here. So when you're writing out the name for a molecular compound, you're using the Greek prefixes, similar to what we used for the hydrate prefixes, hexahydrate or dihydrate. You use the Greek prefixes in molecules with non-metals. And the second element ending changes to "ide," right? So, classic example, we have carbon dioxide, right? So we use carbon and then dioxide. So here's a review. I already wrote these Greek prefixes on the last slide when we looked at hydrates, I should say. So a couple of things to note. You never write in the prefix mono for the first element in your formula. So for example, remember I just finished saying this. This is called carbon dioxide. We don't say monocarbon. Okay, so the first element, if there's only one of them, you don't put in the mono. If you have a vowel where the prefix is the same as the beginning, it ends with the same letter as the beginning of the element name, you actually drop the second vowel. So normally that happens with OO or OA, okay, or even AO. So I'll give you an example. We'll kind of move away from that. So if I have, let's say, hexaoxide, okay, you never keep both of the A and O. So what you do is you drop the A. So hexoxide. That's a weird one, but because we'll never have, this actually doesn't exist. I don't know why I use that randomly as an example. So let's say we did penta. This can exist. So pentaoxide. You drop the A, it's just pentoxide, okay? So the classic example is monoxide. We don't say monooxide, you drop the O, and it's just monoxide, carbon monoxide. So this happens with OO and A with O, or O with A. Those ones will have one of the vowels drop. So carbon monoxide, you don't say monocarbon monoxide. So see how it's like the double O? One of those O's drops. There's only one exception. So remember I mentioned there's always going to be exceptions to the rules that you're going to learn in chemistry. Iodide is an example of that. That's an exception to this rule. So you can actually have 2 I's back to back. So it's usually strange to have 2 of the same letter back to back. So for example, phosphorus triiodide, that is the proper terminology for that. Okay, so over here we have dinitrogen trioxide, right? N2O3. You do not reduce down. So for these ones here, you actually just use the prefixes as whatever they are. There is no reduction. This is not ion. That's one of the big differences between ionic and molecular naming. Over here we have nitrogen and oxygen. So this is going to be nitrogen. Remember, you don't put mono for the first one, but then this one will be monoxide. Tricarbon hexahydride, C3H6. So I find naming these are pretty straightforward. You just go directly with whatever the prefix is, but sometimes it can be hard to remember when do you use these and when do you not. So remember, you're using these prefixes when you have non-metals only. Okay, so there are some, let me go back to this. Okay, so there are a lot of molecular compounds that go by common names. I don't expect you to know all of them, okay, but these are the 5 that I do expect you to know. So for example, water, the IUPAC name for this is actually dihydrogen monoxide. Okay, so I don't know about you, but I don't really remember the last time I referred to water as being dihydrogen monoxide. So when you're doing this, you are able to use both. Of course, this is the correct term, but you should also know that it's water. Same thing with ammonia. Ammonia is NH3. So technically that's nitrogen trihydride. But be careful, I'm not talking about the polyatomic ion ammonium. This is ammonia. Hydrogen peroxide is another one where it goes by a common name. So remember, this does not reduce down. It's dihydrogen dioxide here, right? Methane. So methane is carbon tetrahydride, but we're going to also refer to it as methane. And then ozone is also trioxide or trioxygen. But these ones here, I do expect you to know. So if I say methane, you should know the formula of that, okay? And then I will pause the video and we'll do acids and bases, which is our last naming portion in the next part.